is Godus. Imagine a world full of people that you have nurtured, full of people who worship you as a god. Imagine a land that's infinitely moldable, where your god powers can shape the living world with both beauty and destruction.
Right, we've caught up with Peter Molyneux here in front of the lovely purple wall in the business center of Gamescom. And first of all, what's going on at 22 Cans? How's things these days? And sort of what's that first few years of independence been like?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my dream was to set a company up and to make a game which kind of appealed to a core audience and a big casual audience. And I think as a designer, you need to sort of kind of ask yourself, right, who am I making these games for? So we set the company up, we experimented with these crazy things called Curiosity, and then we've just released this game Godus on iOS. It was released this time last week, and it's been an amazing reaction. We've had it's been number one in 19 different countries. There are millions of people who have never even seen a game of mine before or heard of a game of mine, and they're playing Godus and really enjoying it. Now the question I've got is, how can we make the core gamers love Godus as well as the casual gamers? Because that's a real dream of mine, is to get a game that both type of audiences can play. Now on iOS it is free to play, and I think the gaming community struggles with free to play. But we've released Godus on Steam Early Access. We're saying it's only about halfway finished, but you can play it now. No free to play at all, and that is a real interesting design problem.
So how's been designing these two games side by side, and sort of, because I mean obviously the early access means you're opening yourself up to criticism, and you have had your fair share of criticism.
Yeah, I mean the problem is that we're a tiny little company, and we haven't got time to focus on more than one thing. So we initially did Kickstarter, and then we released a version of Godus, and we said, over and over again, this is not a finished game. It is going to change radically. It's full of bugs. It was on the front page of our Steam Early Access page, but because people do think of it as a game. I mean, the most recent release, is starting to feel like a real game rather than like a demo. And what we're about to do, we're about to make a big step forward, in that there is a fascinating thing that we can do with Steam Early Access, and that is to say to the community, here are the tools to balance the game. If because we've had a lot of people say, we hate waiting around in the game, so we're going to give the community the power to mod the game themselves and to refine it and change it so that they're not waiting for it. They don't have to wait for anything, and they can publish that version on Steamworks, and we, together we can balance the game so it is like they want it to be. And that's the point of Steam Early Access, is that we can radically change the game. Now, the only unfortunate thing is that we as a team have to go, right, we can only do one thing at a time. So we've pretty much done the mobile version now. So we're winding back to the PC version. We've got an update coming out today or tomorrow, which is a pretty big update, and then next week we're going to have this all this modding stuff. I'm going to be fascinated to see what the community does. You can change Godus from being a slow game where you're waiting and quite a strategy, into a super fast-paced game, and you can do that by changing like 5 numbers. And then later on, via Steamworks releasing map editors that allow people to play around with the map, and AI editors that allow people to play around with the AI. And that's what I mean by cycling round back to the PC. I don't think if you really want to make a game like this, you can't just make it in your ivory tower. This is not that sort of game. There are many games that you can make like that, but Godus isn't one of them. It's been terrifying. It's been terrifying because a lot of the time what the community wants us to do is to react to what they're saying, but we have to focus on one thing. We're only 20 people, and if we start, doing this bit over here and then, oh well, let's stop doing that and do this bit. But we've had a great success with the iOS version. It's been a real journey for me into free to play. I still, as a consumer and a gamer, I love free to play when it's balanced right. When there's never, free to play is never a block for something. It's just a temptation. I love that. And now it's more interesting for us to look at the PC version again.
One thing that I do love about Godus on iPad is the fact that
you played it?
Yes, you actually.
Can I just say, it's always terrifying meeting people that play my game. It makes me want to just run away.
I started on it, but I really appreciate the sort of the almost Monty Python-esque feeling of putting your finger and actually be that's like something that's always been in this kind of game. That sort of that hand.
Yeah. Well, you must have got quite far to do that.
That's the first thing you do.
Oh, you mean you just...
my hand on.
Oh, I see your hand. Oh, I thought you were talking... There's a God power later on where it's called the finger of God, and then where you can use your finger to squash the little people, and there's this aggravating Astari which you can squash, and you can flick them, and you can drown them, and boys like to be mean. But that feeling that you had is exactly what started me on this journey, because I felt to myself, imagine, I've been creating these worlds now for years and years, Populous and Powermonger and Black and White, but you always felt detached from the world. And when I saw the touch devices, I thought, Christ, it would be amazing to be able to touch a world and to feel in contact with that world. And so, I'm so pleased that you felt the same.
So how do you plan to sort of get that powerful thing of having your actual finger on the world onto the PC version?
Well, there is touchscreens, of course. I do find that more difficult going like that. If you've got a PC with a touchscreen on, reaching across your keyboard is a little bit more difficult. But there's things like Surface, which I quite respect Surface, which you can hold. And why shouldn't that be exactly the same? I do think the mouse has always been my favourite input device. Probably touch beats it now, but I love, one of the things with Godus we said to ourselves is you shouldn't have to use the keyboard at all. You can just kick back with the mouse, lean back in your chair, and you don't have to touch that keyboard at all. Because I do find that position difficult when we're playing, and that was a similar thing that we did in Black and White. You didn't have to use the keyboard at all, so that's interesting. It's much more of a pro experience on the PC because the mouse is much more precise than the big fat finger, especially normal.
So what do you feel of the future of 22 cans? I mean, Godus is obviously something that's ongoing and you will be working on it for still a while, but where do you see the future for it? Because I feel like my interpretation of this was that you wanted to stay small. You wanted to stay confined rather than, you built up a couple of companies and that have gone big and been sold off.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, there are 20 of us. We absolutely love and adore what we do. Every day there's conversations in the office of, God, what can we do for the PC people? What can we do to make them happy? We've got to wait. We've got to finish what we're doing first. And it's a fantastic, amazing experience doing that. And why would I change from that? And our idea is, I think now games feeling like that when you release them, it's the start of them rather than the finish of them. I'm passionate about that idea. I'm passionate about if we can get the core of Godus right with the PC people on the PC, and if we can get the core of Godus right on mobile, then we could be developing it for years to come. And it could be this incredible journey which we're going on. And we're just 20 artists and coders that are passionate about that. We've got so many crazy ideas that, it's fascinating. What we're trying to do is we're trying to nurture more of those ideas to come into the company. And I just think, as long as Godus is making money, and you've got to have money to survive, and as long as what we're doing makes the game feel better all the time, not worse, then we should just carry on doing it. And who knows when it finishes.
Because it feels like it's quite a disruptive time in the industry. There's a lot of things changing. There's things coming up and things on the decline, and maybe we don't know what consoles are going to be like in a few years ahead, and there's a lot going on.
It is. I mean, I've been lucky enough to feel this happen before, and there was a moment in the history when we changed from home computers into consoles, and it feels like a similar sort of time. These consoles, when Sony released the PlayStation especially, before that there was Nintendo and Sega, but they felt like they were very Japanese machine. And along came Sony, and they had this dinosaur, and I walking across the screen, I remember thinking, it's all going to change. And exactly the same thing's happening, similar feeling now. Is you've got this amazing force, this incredible force happening at the moment, and it's partly about this device. My dream is, I've got my entire music collection on this device. I want my entire games collection on this device. And I want to be able to walk into someone's home and press a button and play the game instantly. I don't want any cloud bollocks and registering and logging. I just want to do that and play. Because that's what I feel as a consumer is so exciting, is my entire games collection is like my entire music collection. Okay, if there's a controller in the room, I can just pick the controller up. This device works as the portal for that. So all that is changing and happening now, whilst we are actually, and this is what excites me, this device is making about 10,000 new gamers a week. It's creating gamers. And because and a lot of people use their smartphones, for making phone calls, but playing games. And a lot of people who play those games are playing games for the first time. And I think that is a brilliant opportunity. Gamescom is great. I mean, I don't know what the attendance is. It's hundreds of thousands of people. It could be millions of people, man. Our dream in this industry has been to be bigger than Hollywood. That's what we said the games industry could be. To do that, it's not just about making great games, it's about bringing the same number of people that Hollywood has to the games industry, and that makes it incredibly exciting. And in a way, that's what consoles did when they first came around, but because before consoles, you had the Atari and the Amiga, and it was keyboards, and it was PC, and you had to run your program, and you had to put your tape in. When console came along, and they said, slap the disc in the drive, press the button, you're playing the game. And now the next step forward is this mobile device. And just as consoles brought new gamers in, I think mobile phones can. But that does mean we've got to get our heads round free to play. And that doesn't mean that we have gotten a lot of trouble for doing a free to play game from the gaming community, because I think they feel that it is this toxic thing that will never work.
I mean, sometimes it also has been kind of toxic and sort of looking towards gambling and betting and that.
I totally agree, it has. But, as a gamer in my heart and as a designer, the brilliant thing about free to play is experience the game before you even think about paying any money. Why wouldn't that be a brilliant mechanic? Why shouldn't that be loved by the gaming industry? And it's only because a lot of those, I mean, I could talk about this for hours because it's a real design core thing, because a lot of the early experience, just like anything early on tends to go in wrong directions before it finds the right direction. You know, the other great thing about free-to-play that it does do, which is amazing, is it does start to modify the amount of time you spend on a game. And, you know, one of the saddest things for me as a designer is to spend years making a game like Fable in the full knowledge that someone will play through the entire game in a weekend. And that there's always, especially when you're doing story-based games, there's always a contradiction, is that you do all this work and then people are over and done. With if you get those wait timers right, then what you can do with the game is you can say, right, don't focus on that anymore, focus on this. And sometimes focus on this is stop playing the game for a while. So I actually find it intriguing and fascinating. I don't want free-to-play to be greedy. I always want people to have other stuff to do, but it does get us in a lot of trouble. I mean, I'm fully expecting to be probably knifed while here. I mean, the fact I'm still alive while standing up.
Don't step into the public halls.
Well, there's going to be a red dot that appears on my face, or someone's at least going to egg me, I think.
Well, let's hope not. Let's hope you get to continue work with Godus and prove the doubters wrong, and you know.
Yeah, and you know, those doubters, I mean, especially when someone has played the game and they've got, you know, real concerns. I love people that have that. I think I get scared of people that don't play the experience, that just get on a bandwagon. But our next big step is to give the early access community an easy, simple way to mod the game, everybody to mod the game, and change the game into what they think, and then see how that goes.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.